Hello. Welcome. There we go. Awesome. Hey guys. Hope you guys are having a great day. I'm mostly going to be doing art today just because I'm not feeling too good and I just got off a really hard shift at work. So, I thought I'd do that if that's alright with you. I mean, you guys are the ones who are going to be watching, so I should do this on Twitch and then I could become a Twitch streamer with art. Hold on. But I don't have a Twitch. Well, I do, but not enough people are there for it to, actually mean anything. So, hold on. How do I move this forward? There we go. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Hello, Mochi Frost. I don't know yet. That's kind of the reason why I started a stream, is because then I'd force myself to draw. I'm doing fine. Like I said, work is kind of tough, but I got through it. That's all you can really hope for, I think. Just to get through it. So, let's zoom in a bit. Don't know if you guys can hear the music or not. Hello, Dreams Animation Studio. That's awesome. I want to be an animator soon. I love doing art and stuff. Oh, but now I feel really anxious. Holy crap. When are you want to draw? I'm drawing now. I just need to get an idea in my head. Actually, start out with a body. I'm glad everybody's doing okay. It's really all you can hope for, with a week like this. You notice me, huh? Yeah. I notice all my people watch my stuff. Or I try to. That would hurt though if somebody was saying like that. Yeah, let's redraw this. What would you guys like to see? Thanks. I'm just sketching though. There we go. Thanks. head's too small right there. Which is probably kind of good because we can resize it a little. Hey, I'm doing good. Sorry, I'm just drawing in this stream. People are probably upset about that. I haven't done voice acting in a minute. Do you like to draw anything fancy related? Yeah, I love fancy stuff. Right now I'm just trying to figure out something to warm up with, because I just got home from school. Or not school, work. That's what it was. I haven't been doing school. I've already graduated. So I don't know why I started saying that. That's good. I'm glad that I have that impact on people. Really glad. Here I was worried that I would get people turning away because I was drawing. Alright. Let's zoom out a bit. Okay, now I could draw something fancy. Give me that. I have an idea. Although we'll have to use a new document and resize it. Set it to 4,000 is probably good enough. I mean, if we don't want to, then we could do 5,000, but that might be a little too much. We'll go this one. Yeah, 4,000. I have an idea. So we'll get our brush big, just so we can make broad strokes. And just kind of make them all like that. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So what I'm thinking is doing something like a Medusa or something like that. Basically somebody who has a snake body. Kind of like that. So we need to draw a line of action first. Maybe actually draw, like sketch up some stuff. I was thinking something like this, and then maybe line of action like this, and then, or something more, actually here, let's think of something scarier, or not scarier, but more fantasy, because that's more mythology than fantasy, isn't it? I'm gonna go to Pinterest. Oh yeah, by the way, if the music gets too much, let me know. I've been doing a lot of fantasy character drawings, but maybe I should do, or not fantasy character, I've been doing a lot of character drawings, so maybe I should do some fantasy landscapes or something, you know? Maybe that would be a good idea. I might, actually. So, let's start with a gray square. Set up our landscape thumbnail. It's always good to start with a thumbnail. You can always color it a different color. So what I'm thinking is we do something more like, what is this? Oh, there we go. I was like, I don't think this is lo-fi music. Alright, we'll go with additional color set here. And let's just pick a couple tones that might complement each other. So I'm thinking something with some purples. maybe, no, we'll start with a deep purple because we can always add more different ones later. And then maybe some pale blues kind of in there. Something different, you know. I lost all my viewers because I'm just talking about drawing instead of actually drawing. I was thinking something like a blue forest kind of, so a good way to do that is to kind of something like that. Hello, Melissa. Thank you for joining. Sorry I'm not really doing voice acting and stuff. This is my way to de-stress, you know, and I just thought I'd share this moment with you guys. You know, give you guys something, you know, to show that I'm not dead. That I'm trying to get back in the groove of making YouTube videos. You know, that kind of stuff. But maybe I should have done more background stuff later or earlier. But I'm hoping that these trees will be a good enough background. Maybe we can add some more. Something like that. Hello, Clarissa. Thank you for joining. And maybe actually here we'll do just in case, what we'll do is that we will make an extra basically make an extra layer thing of this. And so what we can do now is select all of the purple. It'll be a little difficult and it might not look good, but we can always do all the other stuff in post. But this is the price we pay for accidentally drawing on the wrong layer. But now, almost. Crap. There. Then we hold shift, bam, and cut. And now our trees are separate. Which means that now we can basically get rid of that and this, and then we can do invert, and then instead of getting it all selected, we'll just do kind of a rectangle selection. This is a very crude way to do it, but this is what happens when you forget to do stuff. You know, you kind of have to make up for it with doing some other things. There. Now we actually have our layers separate and stuff. I'm really glad you guys think so. Hey, your favorite color is purple. That's awesome. I love purple. Hello, Jordan Sperry. Hello, Limchi Bonbon. Hello, everybody, for joining. I'm really glad that you guys are here. You guys are awesome. Now, yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. And if we get rid of that, it's going to have a little bit of a purple on it, but now we can work on actually working on our background, which is very, very important, because I had a specific idea in mind for this, which included this light purple right here, basically creating a starry sky with it. So, like that, and then we maybe work on blending through with this, because this will do some color stretching for us. We kind of stretch it as much as we can, and it looks kind of fake right now, but that's why we stretch it a little. And then we can do some other basically layer styles to manipulate it a little, because most of the light is not going to be in the trees. When it's nighttime or when it's, you know, in the middle of the day, usually if you have lots of trees like this, the light's very sporadic and it's not in the same, you know, it doesn't hit the trees the same way. And now we can already see, you know, where the trees are already messed up. I have a Wacom one that I use. I recently bought that. That's why I've been working so much. Because I'm going to do some animation classes in the fall for an animation degree. So hopefully, you know, they'll help me out with that. But now what we do is that we grab a stretching, basically a really stretchy blender like that. We need something that will help us lay down some values though. Like that. Yeah, like that. That's what I'm talking about. See. So now what we do is that we kind of introduce this new value here. And of course we're gonna have to blend again, but it's a small price to pay for a proper portrait. And that darker blue that we just, or purple that we just added, is going to add more of a somber kind of look to it. Hey Teddy Games. It's going to make it a little bit more sad, a little bit more blue, and, you know, literally blue. And if we wanted to, what we could actually do is that we could grab a different color purple, something that's more blue toned, and lay it as our ground. If we want to make a different color than the sky, we can actually blend it through a little, make it look like, you know, there's kind of a light fog going on. I know it looks very blended and stuff, and it doesn't look super duper clean, but it's really just a thumbnail. We're just trying to get an idea of what our landscape would look like when we get it done. And these trees are really a main focal point for it as well. So what we can do now is get the lighter tone of this, and there's a trick for that. You actually do an L shape to get a little bit of a lighter tone. And just kind of sporadically introduce it there to where our light would be. Not sporadically, but you know, in a good amount. And we make sure that we blend it through a little, kind of create that little fog that we were trying to do. And I have a color history somewhere around here. It'll tell me what I used last. Pretty sure I didn't have a color history. Yeah, there it is. This is gonna go probably right here, because we kind of need that a lot, especially when we're laying out more dark tones, which is what we're gonna need. We're gonna need lots of dark tones in this portrait, especially these ones that we used for the ground. We're gonna try to need to blend it a little more with that. Hello Prism, thank you for joining. Yeah, because we only want a little bit of light on the very edge. There's a philosophy that Bob Ross has about paintings and stuff, is that it needs to get lighter the farther you go backwards. And that you move most of your dark colors up front, and it creates sort of this nice little effect. I'm not Bob Ross though. I'm just a guy who's trying to figure out how to paint. So next we're going to try to create a new layer and add in some, what is this? Mountains. Add mountains, I think. Something like that. And for this, let's add something that's a little bit more of a different tone in there. Not something bright like this though. Need something kind of dark, a little bit fit into the tone of everything else. These cool colors. So probably maybe this light purple. No, too light. It needs to be kind of somber as well. But it needs to stick out a little. So something like that. You know. Just because we need some mountains, we need something different. Aw, thank you, Toothache. I'm glad you think so. I'm glad that they help you out. I hope you have a great rest of your day. No. I'm not a painter. I just try my hardest to do whatever I can digitally with it. If I was a painter, then I'd be a lot better at this, but I'm not. So we've got our values there. What we can actually use now is something different for adding kind of this texture, the mountain texture that Bob Ross usually does by using a hard edge of a, what's it called? A hard edge of his brush. We can get something like that if we use one of these hard brushes here that have like this really rough kind of, you know, thing on them. So let's do this one. Yeah. So we increase the density of that. Maybe make our, yeah, there we go. Change our opacity so that way it doesn't show up as much. You have a little bit of a crazy curve on that. On purpose, we want it to be able to kind of blend that on there. And it looks very, very rough right now, but this is really just a thumbnail drawing. And these trees, I went kind of overboard when I made them. Because really, they need to be something else. Like, if I can figure out how to show you. They need to be more like, zoom in. See, if we zoom in, we can actually see how messy this is. But we blur the edges of the trees just a little, just so that way we can kind of not focus on those as much, because it's just the thumbnail, you know. With art, you have to kind of make yourself, and this is the hardest part with art, is that you have to sort of make it so that way your brain doesn't worry about every little thing. And that's why I like thumbnails. Thumbnails are nice because your brain doesn't want to try to detail it. It trains your brain into realizing that not everything matters as much as, you know, you think it does. I added a guide or something, I don't know why. It trains your brain to think that nothing matters as much as you think it does. Which is very, very good to know, you know, because you want to know that everything that you make with your artwork is sort of, you know, it can change, just like life can. And that's a great way to draw and to do things, because you're not limiting yourself to one idea, you're allowing yourself to work off of your ideas that you have. Like this right here, this is very contrasting, this mountain, so I might actually remove it. The only reason why is because it looks like it's contrasting with the rest of the piece a little too much. So what we could do with that is maybe take it out, see what we got. And I think this looks a lot better anyways. It looks really gloomy like this. And so what we can do now is take our little blender that we had, increase the size on it, and kind of just make our sky more soft. And then actually extenuate that darkness that's under here and make it a lot more apparent that it's actually there. And a great way to actually add another, you know, basically to make that difference very, very well known, is to grab this color and basically add a darker tone of it right here. And a good way that we can do it is, yeah.
You have to come in here and see
No.
what cursed being I've created, what I brought into this world. Quick,
No,
quick now.
I'm on a live stream.
I don't care about the live stream. You have to come look at this.
No, I'm not. I'm on a live stream.
Just give it a 15-minute break, or actually no, just a 1-minute break. Just please look at this. Please. I won't be able to show you it later. I know it.
Hold on. Sorry guys, give me a second. It was just some Friday night funkin' thing. He likes Friday night funkin' right now, which is really cool. Give me a sec. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so now we can continue our painting. Great thing about doing a live stream is that I can look on my other screen and see how the portraits or the landscape's looking from a different view, with different colors and everything, which is very good because it'll help me to develop a different way to look at it. I don't like this song. Hold on. Hey Google, skip this song. There we go. That's good. Okay. Gives me a different way to look at it, which is very, very good, because especially when you're painting something, you want to make sure that all your colors are kind of merging properly. And I think that this looks really good, even though the colors are very, very clashing. You know, there's not really a good blending of them together, especially right in this area. I still think it looks good, so maybe we can just make it look messy or something, make it, you know, very artistic like that. Yeah, you know, something like that. I think that looks really good when you do that. Try sketching pen for that same reason. Yeah, sketching in pen's great. I love sketching in pen. I actually, when this live stream started, I made a new brush for myself that was a pen brush that I can use to sketch and things like that, just because I love sketching with a pen. It really is, man. I didn't even notice. But we grab this color now, and the thing is that this color that we used isn't even bright. It's like dark, which is great because that means that we can use it when we are adding other things into our picture. So we'll use our pencil again to lay down the hard values of our colors. And of course they're not going to have that same brownish tone on them as the other ones do. We're going to have to add that in more. Or not brownish, that bluish tone. They're not going to have that as much as the other ones do because of the purple that we had from the beginning, our mistake that we made. That kind of messed that up. But maybe for the best. Maybe it gave us an insight on how we should make this drawing look different, you know, instead of how it was gonna look otherwise. And Bob Ross would be rolling in his grave if he knew that I was making a landscape like this. He'd be like, "You're not using a fan brush." He would die, and then I'd be sad. But times are changing, Mr. Bob Ross. I don't know anybody who doesn't paint on digital anymore. I mean, I know some people who don't, but besides them, it's, you know, far and away, this is the way that people paint now. Maybe we'll make the forest a little bit more dense as well. And we can make that visually apparent by kind of adding this, you know, kind of darker, a little bit of a light right there. Hello, Carla. Thank you for joining. It makes it look a lot more creepy to me, I think. Especially if we extend some of these branches out a little. We have to move this one behind, though, if we're gonna make this a proper painting. Yeah, there we go. And then with right here, I guess we could do something different. But what's great is that since we separated these, we can actually do like a grass texture. Hold on, I gotta turn down the volume on that. I'm definitely gonna get copyright striked for this video. I don't care. This is a good video, and it's fun. At least I think it is. So now we can do kind of, there is a brush on here somewhere that looks kind of like, not Cosmos. There it is, vegetables. It gives you grass and stuff. See? The thing is that it uses two-tone. So we're going to actually have to like do something like this. And then we're going to have to make it small. Something like that. And what we can do with this is that we can actually use our colors that we had previously. Maybe a lighter color like this. Blend them together a bit. You know, and increase the density that we have them. And if we wanted to, genuinely, we could actually take the same color and make a really high density of grass, kind of like that. And then it'll make it look a lot less, you know, fake. Like that. Happy Children's Day in Mexico, we are celebrating it. That's awesome. What is better, digital art or paint? I like digital art, but everybody has their own preferences, and I think that's amazing. That we can all, you know, we still all have our own ways that we do things, which is very cool to me. But for this project, I'm really glad that I paint digitally. And that's not a blight against people who paint traditionally. It's just, like, look at this. It gives me, like, the grassiest textures I could ever want. You know, and I can actually add in the foreground a little bit more. And add it to the base of the trees. You know, and of course we're going to blend it a little. Or add, like, maybe a Gaussian blur on it to, you know, make it look less fake like that. But now all of our colors are looking very, very, very kind of muted together. So now we can incorporate what I was actually going to do earlier, and that is bringing out our bluest blue that we have. And this blue is actually going to be somewhat of our highlight. And we actually might have to, yeah, like that. This will be our highlight that we're going to be using for our trees and for our leaves and grass. And for applying it, we are mostly going to need to just kind of lightly dab it on there. Maybe adjust our size of our brush. You know, use something a little smaller. Kind of like that. And, you know, kind of do this with it. And we can do this kind of sketching mode right here where we just sort of lightly kind of change up where we are. And that applies this kind of wood texture to it. It makes it look like it has knots and everything in it, which is really good. Purple and blue are amazing. They're like my favorite colors. I love dark tones, like cool tones like this. Dark cool tones are my favorite. And I think that's probably what's got me so happy about this drawing and how it's turning out so far. Or this painting more like. Even though it started out as a thumbnail, which it still is, it's still a thumbnail, but it's a thumbnail that we're collaborating on just to show our values and our colors that we're going to be using. You know, kind of, it's an elaborate thumbnail, and it's good. I think it's good, at least. Because it's showing different aspects of the drawing that kind of come together to make it look better. Which is very good. We need all those different aspects to help to make it all look very, very well. especially with the light that we have going on right here, this blue color. That's very, very important. We don't know where that light's coming from though, and that's something that we have to kind of add in later. You know, I kind of made the executive decision to make it look like a sunset and also have light. So we're gonna have to figure out if it's a blue sunset or, you know, what kind of color is coming out of this that creates this shadow, this light that's shining on all the plants and stuff. And after this, I'm gonna do some character drawings, probably stuff like that. But I don't know. I think it's nice to do some landscapes sometimes and get your mind out of the, you know, character mindset of having to always have to draw individuals, because our world around us is its own individual. It sort of has its own way that it corresponds to everything else without us, which is amazing. And I think it's absolutely wonderful. But now what we do is that we add some of this dark color that we have going on and get rid of this guide. We don't need the guide. It's actually messing us up. If we could figure out how to get rid of it. There we go. Yeah, will it still affect our stuff? Yeah, it's still gonna affect the stuff. Okay. Toss it. Bam, there. No guide. Because it was messing up our lines right here. I'm glad you think that or feel that. I didn't mean for it to be like that, but I'm glad that you think, you know, that's what you're getting out of it. I'm really glad. But the thing is that the main goal with these is not to take so long and not to, you know, stress about it and worry about making sure that you get it right. It's mostly just adding your colors and enjoying your composition that you have going on. And for me, the composition I'm really enjoying is these trees and how they're laid out and everything. It makes me feel very, very, I don't know. It's sad, but in a way, it's also very, very enjoyable. Like, it's cathartic. It makes you think about other things, makes you think about sad things. But it also makes you think about happy things and how those happy things could come out of sad things. You know? And I don't know, I think that's part of why art is so important. Is because it makes us feel all different emotions, it makes us convey all different types of emotions. And if we lose that ability to convey those emotions with art, then, you know, it's... I like how you use big words. You sound very smart. Shoot, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be saying big words. But it helps us convey that kind of idea about art, you know, when it conveys emotions whenever we're able to, you know, do stuff like this. And create trees and, you know, all this. And use colors properly. It basically shows something different in our picture. Something that's entirely brand new compared to what it was before, you know. And I think that's one of the best things about artwork to me. And now that we have our trees down, I think I might run a quick blur slightly over some of these, lightly blur it out, just to kind of give a haze to the picture, make it not look as sharp, you know. Not as much though, just kind of this little, looks dreary, you know, a little sad, which is fine. I mean, life is supposed to be sad. It's not supposed to be happy all the time, but it's how we, you know, look at our days and our time. And for the longest time, I've looked at life as a sad thing. But really, I think that it can be whatever you want it to be. And now we have our trees, and our trees look very, very blurry and stuff, but it looks very good. I'm really enjoying it. So now, let's work on our grass. What I do with the grass is mostly just add a little bit of a blur to it. Like a light touch of blur. Or, actually, could do is just kind of forget about adding a blur to it and just kind of leave it as is. So, bam. Look at that. We got a thumbnail. Don't know what we should call this, but I think we should call it something cool. Oh, I merged it with a paper. Hold on. There we go. Sad times. No. Blue. I'm feeling blue. That's what I'm gonna call it. There we go. Now we have something to show for this, stream. It took us 40 minutes to get that done. Wow. Now we can do characters. Characters are really great. I love characters. Especially character drawings. They make me really happy. So let's use an ink pen. Ink. And we can actually use a blue color for this. Let's get an idea of something fantasy, probably. Maybe we'll do kind of like an angel. And maybe we'll do it kind of like this. With their wings and body, kind of like that. And the head like that. Sort of like that. And then we're blocking most of our view of the character. I thought it might look cool because of the wings, but what we could think about with it is put in some, maybe kind of like this. Kind of like, ooh, sad, or something dumb. Or we could do a portrait if we wanted to. I'm not really good with portraits and faces and stuff, but you always have time to learn. You guys have any ideas? What would you like to see? Actually, let's work on the sketchy with the sketchy pen. Just that way we can, convey our ideas in a different way. I have an idea. We'll create a new species of mythical creature. Mythical or fantasy creature. Something like that. Do you use a tablet? Yes, I do. We'll create kind of a new type of mythical creature. So what I'm thinking is something like course his head's not going to be that small, but that's what I do whenever I draw bodies, is that I always underestimate how big the head is, or I overestimate. and most of the time it's the latter. But a smaller head I can fix, you know. So this part goes in a little, and then kind of like that. And then strong arms. Although part of me doesn't like this pose because it's not dynamic enough. But I think it's plenty dynamic, it's whatever. I'll be back. Need to do something. Okay, Alex. The head doesn't matter as much as the body does in this drawing. And you'll see why in a minute because of the type of character that I'm creating. And this sketch is very, very loose. It doesn't need to be super duper, you know, perfect. Especially for what we're doing. So what I'm thinking is just kind of a vapor creature where it's kind of just made out of wisps, kind of like that, except that looks like fire, but make it kind of look like vapor, or yeah, something like that. Except it's not really gonna have a face because it's vapors, you know. It's kind of, its face is gonna be kind of, you know, clouds or whatever. And it's gonna be kind of like that all the time. So we're just trying to get the idea down at this point. And I had this idea because I imagined them in a t-shirt, and like kind of like their body is kind of evaporating out of the t-shirt. You know, it's kind of like they're not even there in the t-shirt. Except, I know it's fantasy, so they probably wouldn't be wearing t-shirts. But, might as well, just to plan out our dude here. Our character, our little guy. Because he's not a little guy, he's a strong guy. At least I think he is. I'm still drawing him, so. All depends on how I make him. So the back is going to be very important as well because that's where the shirt's going to be. And he is, like I said, he's vapor, so it'd be kind of translucent. You'd be able to see through him. Except when he's wearing something, which is kind of the point, I think. It's kind of like he's invisible, you know. I don't know. It's a dumb idea, but I thought it might be funny. So, and his arms are kind of like, you know, kind of melty a little or something like that. But yeah, we'll put that to the side. We'll call him Vapor Man. Vapor Man. We'll put him on the side kind of with our other drawings. Make a folder for fantasy. Yeah. Something like that. Fantasy. Bam. Okay. Now, time time to sketch. More. We got 4 people here. Cool. Glad we got 4 people. Sorry, I'm looking at references. I spaced out for a second. Right. Have you ever done the line art? I haven't. Yeah. I did a while back, but then it just kind of hit me that I need to fix that and make sure I didn't do that as much as I used to. I mean, I did that earlier with the other guy, but I was kind of happy I did because, you know, they're both sketches. So it was fine. Okay, so another very important part about drawing figures is, and I need to do this more with men than I do with women because I'm really good at drawing women now, because of basically I've done lots of figure studies and stuff, because they're the most complicated. It's the opposite gender. That's what an art teacher told me once, that characters of the opposite gender are really the hardest to draw. But now it's becoming that the same gender is hard for me to draw because I haven't practiced them enough. So, what I think I might do is that I might go and look at just male. Let's go to male pose reference. There we go. Cool. Let's pull our brush to a super tiny amount and pull out our blue again, because blue is like my favorite color for sketching. So for guys, the only thing that you really have to remember for sketching bodies for them is that they have a bigger top than they do bottom. When it comes to their hips and shoulder length and stuff. And that's always the hardest part for me to do because, like I said, I've not drawn men in a while. 3 viewers. Woo, nice. But you could really just derive everything when it comes to bodies. You can derive it all into shapes. And I know it's probably really hard to see, but that's the point, is that it's not pretty. So, you know, it doesn't deserve to be in full headlights for everybody to see. But it is looking pretty good for, like, really, 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 really rough sketch. Although I'm going to kind of I'm going to extenuate the head the way I want it to be. Flip it. Nah. Need to get that bit. Yeah, there we go. Something like that. But let's rotate this. Kind of do something like that. Yeah, it's not completely lined up, but whatever. You know, it's not doesn't need to be lined up entirely right all the time. So now we have to basically create sections for belly button. Bam, 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 wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. Wham, bam. Done. Got a body sketch. And if I zoom in, you guys can actually see it a little bit better. But, bam, there we go. Now we just make it bigger. And now it's on to the hard part, which is actually sketching in what we want on it. I might do this on a separate layer. I think I will. Especially because the head is whack as heck. So let's actually cheat a little. There, we'll do a perspective like that. We'll go over our pencil too. Blam. And just kind of work on creating a proper head shape now. Something that's equal on both sides. And that kind of shows the face shapes of a dude. Because dude face shapes are a lot sharper. Not usually. Well, usually they are. Not all the time. And it's really kind of sharp. So, you know. Use too many straight lines, yeah. That's always the hardest part when you sketch, or when you're just starting out, when you're drawing, is to teach yourself to only draw with kind of curved lines, because curved lines are your best friend. They help you to see where your dynamics are, where all your shapes are and everything. So, actually, let's turn this blue. Yeah, if we turn this blue, then it'll kind of be what the other one was supposed to be. And we can actually get rid of the other one. Give me a sec. Blam, blam, blam. There. Now it looks clean as heck. Look at that. Bam. Curves, they really are. Curves are great. But it just takes practice to get there with curves. And we turned off our line thingy that we had. Now we can just do sketching with this. So we use a pen. Use the same pen that we used for the original, and we use this. I'm glad. That's awesome. I'm glad people like you guys are enjoying it. You know, that's part of the reason why I'm doing it. It's just because people enjoy it. Right. We're not going to make this guy bald. I just want to make sure I get the head shape right. And this is the best way to, is to make it bald and then, you know, basically erase and fix as you do it. Yeah, it's straight enough. It's not perfect, but nothing's perfect. And I'm going to go for kind of a semi-realistic thing here, just because, I don't know, it seems the easiest to accomplish right now than trying to go for a whole cartoon kind of vibe, you know. Cartoon vibes are always the hardest to do when drawing. Because you have to extenuate all the different, you know, cartoon aspects, which is long arms and small bodies and big eyes and, you know, that kind of stuff. And that's usually the hardest to do. So people either are devoted to doing only that, or there's people like me who are not really good at any of them and just try all of them at once. To try to figure out how to do them all. We try to learn how to do them all. But we're all learning, and we're all figuring stuff out. Everybody on the earth. So, you know, it's fine to not know everything immediately. At least that's what I think. It doesn't look super realistic just because the hair is kind of going off in tufts and stuff. Tufts. But, meh, it's whatever. It's my drawing. And I mean, in the end, you always have that argument if, you know, somebody's not happy with your drawing. You'll be like, hey, it's just my drawing, man. Now, adjust the head a little, drag it down, and that looks really good, especially for a pen sketch that we didn't have to actually do anything with. This part I don't think we're going to be as lucky, but let's try. Oh no, we already messed up because the head's far too down. Gotta give some room for neck. Actually, wait, the head's tilted, so it's on sort of a tilt, so maybe you tilt your head, your neck kind of goes with it. So let's go to this. We'll mostly just draw out the shoulders real quick and kind of get that developed. And they're not really the same size, but whatever. This kind of needs to be at a different angle though, kind of like that. Yeah. Kind of like that. No. We're messed up on this part right here. So this part's always the hardest for me, or one of the hardest, is to kind of get this working, because it kind of dips a little and then bam. And then kind of do a little of this, a little of this, and instead of trying to overcomplicate things by making it, you know, absurd with the clothing, let's just kind of, hey, what are you doing?
Penis.
Alright, go. Can you shut the door? Please shut the door.
Please tell me everyone on the stream heard that.
Probably.
Dang it! I just realized I might have whispered it too quietly.
Nah, you're good. Alright,
Okay.
shut the door. It's cool that we got 2 viewers. I'm glad that we have 2 viewers. We can flip it. It looks kind of off on that angle, but it's whatever. This is a sketch, so sketches don't really need to be. Sketches really don't need to be, you know, super clean. So this is mostly just to see what we want to do with the drawing, kind of go off of all that. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm using references, don't worry. Don't think that I'm just pulling all this stuff out of my head. I am not that amazing. Wish I was. That would save me a lot of time. I could just pull everything out of my head. I wouldn't have to worry about having to look up stuff and try to figure out how to draw. I could just be, you know, Mr. I know all the drawing stuff all the time.
Also, bro, it's Pico Day.
It's Pico Day?
Yeah, it's Pico Day.
Cool, shut the door.
It's Pico Day.
Yeah, it's cool. It's Pico Day.
Pico Day.
Okay, it's Pico Day. Shut the door.
Pico Gay.
Alright, shut the door.
Pico Day.
Yeah, it's Pico Day.
Pico Day.
Yeah, it's Pico Day.
Pico Day.
Yeah. But this is mostly just a sketch, something to get our brains working, thinking about anatomy. So it doesn't need to be perfect. Especially if we think about, you know, the rest of the body and how it works. Because I'm just messed up that muscle right there. That part goes in like that, and this part kind of goes over like that when your arm is like that. Yeah. Kind of like that. Yeah. But let me think here. We are nearly. Actually, we are an hour and 7 minutes in. Yeah, people are always. It's a stigma in the art community, but references are how you get better. So roll up sleeves, bam. Doing art sketch. We have a sketch. And let's group it all together, I guess. You know, I mean, there's nothing else that we're gonna do with it, I don't think. So, I'm just not good at anatomy, man. For men at least. Women, I've gotten way better at that. But at the same time, it's all mostly remembering the base shape of like the skeleton, you know, and how, you know, we got shoulders or something, and bam, and blam, blam, blam. And see, even now, I'm sort of creating a woman because of how I've created the hips to go outward. See, it's kind of like almost encoded in my body now. That's all I can draw. Which stinks because I want to draw other things. But it just means I have to draw something else. Hello, Coco Kiwi. Let's see, there we go. And that's from memory, man. Like, that's just me going from what I think it would look like a person. Because I've drawn this body type so much. And I haven't drawn body types like, you know, taking a shape and drawing a body type. I'm glad you think so. I'm glad that you've learned stuff from me, because that's really what I'm love to hear. I'd love to be an inspiration and to teach as well. Teach whatever I can, because I'm not going to be an art teacher. I've already told myself I don't want to be an art teacher. So, you know, I'm glad I get to teach whatever I can to people, make people, you know, learn. Or not make people learn, but help people learn. Because learning's one of the best things that we can do, especially when it comes to art and, you know, talents and skills that we have. Learning how to do them better and get better at them is really what it's all about, you know. And I don't know, I'm glad that I can help you guys learn more and stuff. It makes me happy to think about. Sometimes it's good though to use not rounded lines, kind of, or to create more geometric shapes like this. I just don't want to go through teaching school. I have to learn how to teach and stuff. Learning how to teach is really crazy because it takes a long time to do that. And I wouldn't want to do that. That'd be a waste. Not a waste of time, but it would just be a lot of time that I'd be spending to teach kids how to doodle. Because not a lot of kids go into the arts. Well, at least not enough that I see, like at my school. So, yeah, this is the extent of my male anatomy right here. Big shoulder. Female, male. Male, I don't really try to remember how. I don't build up that kind of body shape that I do with the female, unless it's not broad shoulders, and then you kind of have to build up that, this, and then you do kind of that. You do more of a square shape instead of a triangle shape with the hips. And that's a very big important thing as well, especially when you're drawing people, is to remember that with men, the way that their legs kind of go with their hips is more outward in like this square shape. Whereas with women or whatever, it varies between everybody because everybody has different bodies. But usually that's the reason why they have kind of this bam like that, and whereas men don't have as much. Ours is still curved, but it's not as curved. If this was a belly button, that's a belly button. That's really what it is, the difference between the two. And then some people have hip dips and stuff like that, where it's like kind of like this. That's, where they have like bony hips. Really, you can always derive it to a base shape, kind of like a trapezoid or a rectangle, depending on who it is or what their body type is. And that's just because I'm a very big sketcher. That's why I love sketching, so that's how I know, like, if somebody had told me this a while ago, it would have saved my life so many times. Especially if I'm doodling and I forget, like, if I'm just kind of freeballing, like, if I do something like this. Because freeballing is what I like to do now. I like basically just going crazy, letting my mind go whatever direction it wants to go. And that's probably why it draws women a lot. Because ladies are pretty. Men are pretty too, but they're not as pretty. They're kind of gross. Unless they're like cool, like I don't know, cool guys. I don't know what cool guys are. But like if I sketch or whatever, do like a sketch, and then get to the hips. See, I kind of have it engraved in my head that hips kind of go outwards. Even if I'm doing just a basic sketch and I plan to make it more, in depth later. And I need to draw guys more because I feel like I'm, being sexist. But I don't know. I don't think you can be sexist with your own artwork unless you're drawing like men towering over women or something dumb. Which only political cartoonists would probably do that. What else? Oh yeah. For clothing wrinkles and stuff. This is really something that I'm still learning as well. But say this is somebody's body or whatever, and they're wearing a shirt that's kind of flowing like this. The wrinkles would sort of follow the flow of the drawing as well. And nearly every occasion, wrinkles are going to be facing downwards. because of gravity basically pulling clothes downwards like that. You know, like you look at a curtain. How does a curtain work? You know, it's falling down from the pole. That's why it creates these wrinkles. And so with a shirt or something like that, especially if it's big clothes definitely have wrinkles because of it's more fabric, you know. And so that's where those wrinkles come from. And sometimes you have wrinkles right here. These are some of those that are kind of like a little bit of gravity defying. They kind of look like they're moving upwards. But the only reason why that's happening is because two pieces of fabric are coming together. So it's kind of like you have a sheet of paper like this, and you push it together up here, and up here, it kind of dips together like there, you know. And that's why you have these creases. That's where they come from. And so those are usually commonly found in places where the body would move a lot or interject with itself, or when you have baggy clothes, kind of where you have it bunched up. See, when you bunch up, you're basically pushing those fabrics together and doing that. Hello, thank you for joining. And then when you stretch it out, then you have more wrinkles going downwards, because then it's doing the same thing but in a downward kind of way because of gravity. You know, it's pushing the two pieces of cloth together that way. Yeah, what else? Let me think. Other things. Hands. We'll do hands. I'll touch on hands for a second. Just because hands are important. So hands are weird. And really, only thing that you can really remember with hands about how to do them is kind of circles are your best friend. And it's really just practice after a while. You just have to remember, you know, how a hand looks. And it's really hard because it's hard imagining and visualizing, you know, what a hand looks in your brain. Because hands are one of the things that we never think about. We never think about our hands and how to use them or how we use them. What we usually think about is like, you know, oh, you know, that person's eyes are really cool. Oh, their hair is really cool, something like that. But with hands, it's like one of the most complicated joints in your body because of how, you know, these, like, with your fingers, not really, because your fingers can only go one way, and that's forward. And they can kind of bunch up, or they can kind of push back like that, but when they push back, it usually creates wrinkles right here because your body, you know, doesn't have joints going this direction. With your fingers, that's what it is. What really confuses people is the base part of the hand and the position. So when you're drawing a hand, that's usually what's the most important part to remember. And if I pull up, let's pull up like a good high pen, because especially with your palm is kind of this very complicated, you know, area where it's kind of the mixture of all the skin that you see like crunching up. Like, that's not really your bone at all. None of that's bone, and none of it's an indication of bone. But when we draw, we have to kind of remember that. Because our palm and how our fingers are, let me draw like kind of like a hand or something like that. Yeah, I'll just pretend like that's a hand. The way that your palm is, your finger bones actually, when they connect here, though they're not as movable up here, since they're not as, you know, they don't have joints that move down here, but in this area, the bones are still there. And what that creates is sort of this ability for your palm, if you're looking at from the bottom, if you basically are looking at it like this, when you move your hand in and out, it creates sort of this bend with your bones, because they're just rods basically that are standing there, and these rods are able to move and flex. And that's just thinking of it as the bone, which is a very simple way to think about it. It makes it a lot easier to think about how to do different positions. Like a scrunched up hand, especially if it's in a ball like this, you can think of it as kind of rotating around that ball. You know, the fingers are the easier part compared to the wrist, because the wrist shape is really important. And I could draw it out for you. I'm not really good with hands myself, but I'm good at the theory of hands, you know, thinking about how to do them. Whenever I do hands, I'm just kind of, you know, BS them. And that's the truth. But when you ball your hand kind of like this, this isn't really a good example, but when you ball it, you always want to be able to have some sort of curve right here to show that they're kind of balled. Especially if the palm is showing, or this part right here, if you have it at like an angle, that's when you want to show a curve. But if it's just the knuckles, your knuckles barely curve at all when this happens, unless you're moving your pinky down like that. So if you have your hand balled up like this, it's mostly just one flat curve that needs to be shown right there. And then the opposite, keeping your hand open as sprawled out as it can be, you can see that as kind of a, you know, like this. And you think of it as this part right here, you know, basically following that guideline with it, making sure that you show that there's a little bit of a roundness to it, you know. Besides where your knuckles are the exclusion, because your knuckles have kind of this section right here that protects them a little bit, because they're very important. What else? Yeah, and with fingers are another thing. I know that these probably aren't really good drawings to show this, but with fingers, especially the direction that you draw them, it's very important to get shape down and like this roundness here, because depending on where the joints are and depending on which side you're facing, this is a side view, depending on what side you're facing and where the joints are, you know, they all have different ways of looking. So if you look at it from the side, that's what it looks like. If you look at it from the front, or if you know, your hand open like that, and I know this is probably not a good picture kind of it, but because I'm not really good at drawing hands, I already said that. That's probably what it looked like, kind of like that. You know, imagine other fingers there. That's from the front. And then from the back is always the hardest part for people, but you wouldn't add as much of these on there, especially if you're doing a stylized drawing. The back would look more like flat, like this, with some maybe even increases right there, kind of like that, to extenuate your knuckles on your fingers as well. And that creates this kind of cool looking effect with your fingers that you draw. You know, it helps you to look at them a little bit better, and it also helps to kind of create a difference between this soft edge and this hard edge. And that's a whole nother thing I could get into, and I probably will, because, you know, that's the back. I'll just point to the back. Because this is very important kind of to do. Give me a sec. Pull up this one and do it. This is a very important concept, especially when you do posing and stuff, and fingers even. With fingers, it's like you have one soft edge and then you have kind of a hard edge. Kind of like this. And that's a way that you can think of hands and everything that you draw. Is that there's going to be contour lines like that are going to be a lot more complicated than you thought. Or something like that. I don't know, this is a weird hand, but you get what I mean. This is the gist of that. And with a pose, you can think of it as kind of, if somebody's head's like this, you know, and their body's kind of like this, then you have to add, you know, I don't know who this is or what this is. You have to add all the complex bits, like their arms coming down, you know, their legs coming out, and all that different stuff, kind of like with contours. But what's really important about it is that you have this very smooth line, and it's very scrunched up. And if you do it the other way, it's scrunched up. And the closer you get to this, the straighter it becomes. And it's sort of like the same thing with clothes. How we were talking about paper and clothes and all that different stuff. It's like if you have a sheet of paper standing straight up or laying down, it's going to look like this. But if you basically stretch out the piece of paper a little bit or bend it, it's going to create these little folds. You know, if you bend it like pushing it this way and this way, you know, pulling it inwards. It's not going to create a fold really with the paper, more of it's going to bend it inward. But with clothes and stuff like that, that's kind of what happens, is that it bunches up on itself. And that's what you can think about both with clothes and for bodies and fingers. Because with fingers, it's nearly the same concept. If you do something like that, kind of like the pointy finger thingy that I was doing, I don't know what that is. You can see that, it has a lot more different, contour lines with it. It has many different things. You can combine them as well. So instead of it being only this, you could be like, give me a minute. You could be like, let's draw a body, right? At least the top half, and then maybe draw, I don't know, like there, a little bit complex right there, and we'll draw a neck. And then if you wanted to, you can go over here to this contour line and kind of create a balance as well. And that's another thing, balancing, equilibriums, all those different things. It's really a game that, that you're fighting with yourself whenever you draw, is to remember all these different things. Remembering how to, get all this in your mind and keep it in your mind when you're doodling. And it can be used in many different ways. That's a really good way to look at it and to think about it, is with, your like a bag of flour or something. Bag of flour is what they do in animation, really. They have bag of flour tests with animation, but you can really use bag of flour tests as well with drawing. If you imagine a bag of flour, kind of like this, and it's curved on that end, so it's going to be a little bit folded inwards right here. And that's kind of what you do for flesh when you're doing animation, or flesh objects, something like that. Is that you use that to kind of define where your, thickness is going to be and stuff. And where everything's going to have these folds. What else? Oh yeah, balance. Balance with a character. I'm kind of dropping a lot of stuff on you guys, but you can always watch this back if you want and to see an example or something like that, or you could explore it on your own. There's plenty of videos out there, or posts on Pinterest or anything like that. I'll show you this. But when you're drawing a character, especially if you're drawing them from a front angle, let me get a good line. Wham. If you're drawing them from a front angle, you can do this, which is very bland, but basically do hip here and shoulder here, or hip here, shoulder here, blam, 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 blam. It looks very, very like plain, generic, arms like that. Or using line of action, using different things like that, you can actually do, maybe if you create like a balance like this, and you'll see what I mean by balance. It's really just making sure that you have like this invisible dotted line in your mind, and that you make sure you keep as much of a line on one side as you do the other. And this is not even a rule that most artists follow. People change up this rule all the time and do different things. Because really it's, when it comes to art, you can do whatever you want with it. This is just, if you're making something that's like this is a way to make it more dynamic, as you think about shifting the hips and creating a sort of balance by, if this is facing this way more, or up more on that end, then you face a little bit up more on that end, balance it out. And if I do a little side by side, like this, kind of like that, and you can kind of do an arms like that. It can convey a different sense of emotion or everything like that. Hi, thank you for coming. Sorry, I'm just teaching some art stuff, or trying to. I don't know if anybody's watching. I hope they are. I think Alex is. But then you can also use your smooth and, basically bunched up and smooth lines that we were using with the flower bag, kind of, with this, and it'll help you to remember your other things. It all correlates very, very well, especially with drawings, and with anatomy. It's stuff like that. Thanks for all your advice and have a good day. Thank you. If you want to later, you can tune into this stream. I'll make sure that I'll figure out a way to get it so you can notice it. Actually, hold on. I'll switch over to just this for a little bit. So that way you can come back afterwards. You'll have a little skip thingy to look at. Good night, though. I hope you sleep well. So, yeah. Kind of took up a lot of time doing art, but I like teaching, and I don't know, maybe talking it out will help me get, the ideas solidified in my own mind a little. So, let's see. Do maybe one more minute like this, just so that way it'll be easier for Lucille to tune back in. But yeah, is there anything else that you guys have trouble with? I'm just gonna keep doing advice and stuff though, because I like to help out, and especially if I can help out artists who are just starting out, all these different things. Alright, it's been like about a minute, too. But let me look here. Yeah, I'll get rid of that one. You got my other layers here though, the sandbag one. We'll just add on to the sandbag one. Now this is another tough thing that usually is hard for people to notice with art and with perspective, with basically drawing curved lines like this. It's hard to break out of the comfort zone of basically sketching everything like this. Caricatures and cartoons. Yeah, cartoons are definitely hard to do. And do you mean like faces or like body or anything like that? Face proportions? Yeah, definitely. I'd love to help you out with that. And I can do cartoons with that too, because cartoons have different face proportions than regular people do as well. But basically when it comes to face proportions, what I do, and what I hope a lot of other artists do, I hope I'm not just this weirdo who does this, but I learned this a while back in art class in like 2nd grade or something, is that you start out with like a circle like this, it's the whole thing. You start out with a circle, go about halfway like this little amount, go a little bit more, like that and like that, make a set of lines like that, and then you build your chin up here, stuff like that. And especially with face proportions when it comes to eyes, this is something I learned recently. So eyes are about halfway, and the smile starts right there as well, or a face starts right there. The mouth does, and that's how you kind of remember all that stuff. And that's kind of cartoony. I don't know why I did it like that. But I made the eyes too cartoony. Give me a minute. There we go. And the nose is kind of in that halfway point between this and that. You have to use your best judgment with that. But with face proportions, it's that, but then you also have to remember how to do this for other angles. And that's always the hard part that everybody struggles with. I struggle with that all the time. But what I need to do more is that I need to remember this rule. Basically, it's an extra amount of time that you have to spend sketching, but in the end it helps you a lot when it comes to creating your drawing. So let me show you, like with a 3/4 view maybe. With a 3/4 view you'd kind of do like this, and then you kind of apply the same kind of rules. Drop a line down here. Make sure it kind of follows the curvature that you were going with. You know, develop your jaw that you have going on here. Add a little bit of a facial line. Pull it over here. And remember that stuff is okay to run off the edge of the face. That happens a lot, especially when you're drawing. And then maybe like that. Something like that. Your nose right there. And bam, bam. Kind of like that. You just have to remember to, whenever you get over to this end, especially in a 3/4 view, that you need to not draw it like that, but over here. Like, it'd be weird if I drew it like this, and then like this, you know, and then, I mean, that kind of looks okay, but that's just because I'm so used to having to shorten it. But if you took the exact dimensions of it, kind of like that, and you drew it like that, you know, it doesn't look too good. But actually squeezing it a little bit this way and not stretching it at all, on the y-axis, basically stretching it or squishing it on the x-axis. That's how you get the eyes to maintain the right height, which is really what's very important when you're doing squash like this. Now, if the eyes are two different things, then you really just have to make a best judgment with it. But that's how I do face proportions, and I hope that helps. I mean, also adding circles when you're doing 3/4. Doing a circle like this for your ears, because ears, I forgot to mention ears. Ears start where the eyes are and where like the nose is, something like that. Between the nose and the mouth. You don't want one all the way down to the mouth. You know, you want it somewhere a little higher up. That's where your ears would go. Yeah, my ears. You can hear my country coming out or something. That's where ears would go. And neck, your neck kind of follows that same smile line as well. You know, use your best judgment. You don't want something to look perfect all the time, especially for drawing. And cartoons, I forgot to touch up on Alex's thing. With cartoons, you actually need to work on, you know, defying this. Learning this is very, very important, because when you learn this, then you can defy it. And with a cartoon, what you can do is that you take your circle, your line, and your half line, and instead of following this kind of jaw proportion that you have going on here, you can, depending on how you want to draw it, extenuate the, you know, lack of a jaw, or you know, the presence of a jaw, kind of like that, something like that. But it still needs to follow kind of a basic guideline where it comes down a certain amount. With the eyes, if you want to make giant eyes, you can make giant eyes, but when you make giant eyes, you also have to remember to make sure that you keep them close to the nose. And with the mouth, it's really just, it can go farther than the other mouth did because it's a cartoon. But I know a lot of people who start with this style and really can't get out of it because they learn how to do this more than they do the actual basics. And that's why it's important to do both, to learn how to basically do a little bit of everything when you draw. You know, a little bit of remembering how the face is shaped, a little bit of remembering all that different stuff. It's very difficult to do, to remember all the little things, all the little details. But that's why most of my art recently has looked a lot like this, is because I'm trying to solidify this in my mind. I'm trying to solidify the proportion of eyes to mouth, to nose, all that different stuff. Because this isn't even realistic. This is like semi-realistic because of how I draw. But if you wanted to go full realistic, then your eyes would be a lot smaller. They'd be about this big instead of that big. And your nose would be a lot more farther down. Your mouth would be a lot smaller. It would be a whole different drawing altogether. But this is what I've found to look nice to me, at least. I look at it and I'm like, yeah, this works. So really, it's to your own. You have to remember that circles are very important, making sure you divide those circles how you need to. And then basically remembering that depending on whichever way it's facing. That's the basically the most difficult part of it. And I mean, it's stuff that takes up a little bit of time and stuff like that, but as you get further and further into it and further into drawing, you sort of remember how faces are shaped, kind of like this. You know, kind of. You remember. Not. This isn't a good example because I don't know. It's a little wonky. You kind of remember how, you know, where everything goes. Something that really got me was the ears with the eyes and the eyebrows, making sure the ears are lined up with the eyes and everything. That's really the hardest part, I think, of all of it. I'm glad you like my playlists or my videos. I'm really glad. But yeah, is there anything else that you guys have issues with? Cuz I could teach you about more cartoony body shapes as well. Not cartoony, but more vivid, because the thing is with cartoons, especially with cartoons that you like, that are like on TV and stuff now, people usually go with shapes. Like if I did Big Chungus or whatever, Big Chungus is kind of like this, you know. You know, it's a shape that you can identify. And you derive it, it has a giant shape, and it's kind of a blob. But when it comes to building up bodies and things, instead of going the normal route, like maybe like this for a body, you would maybe go with whatever the personality is of the character. If the character is strong, you go with more of a triangle body like this, smaller legs, you know, kind of like that. If the character is kind of big, you kind of do the opposite, you know, a little bit. Except you also want to make it look like, if it's a dude, you also want to make it look like a dude, so you maybe bring your shoulders out just a little and kind of rest the arms a little on there. But it would also kind of build up like that as well. And like, I know these kind of look the same, but let me show you an example real quick. Like, trying to think of one. Oh, so like for Clone High or whatever, because Clone High is a really good show for geometric shapes and for cartooning like that. For like Joan or whatever, Joan has kind of this weird shape body. Well, actually, JFK has that kind of weird shape body where his body is kind of like this. It's got this trapezoid shape right here, and he kind of has this kind of, he has this another trapezoid right here to extenuate his legs, and then bam, you know, kind of like that. And then of course you got the butt, of course. And then bam, you know, it's all shapes, and it's looking at the world geometrically, especially when you're doing cartoons. Making sure that you associate different shapes to that character depending on what they are or who they are. That's really important. Like if I want to make a cowardly character or something, you know, like a character that didn't seem very, very strong, I would do something like maybe like a stick, kind of, you know, more stick shaped. So probably like this, you know, kind of like Abe from Clone High as well. Kind of follow a little rectangle, kind of like that, and make him look kind of sad, you know. He's wimpy, but he's tall, so it's good. He's wimpy and tall, and then you've got like strong. You know, you got the triangles. Triangles are very big when that when that all goes down. And then another one about like shapes and stuff, maybe like circles and stuff. Circles are very, very widely used for like if you want to do like somebody who's kind of big but is also kind of, you know, strong, but you know, it depends on the mixture of arms size or shoulder size to, you know, arms. So, you know, this guy's got like a giant beer belly kind of, you know, and that might be good for whatever character you're drawing or designing. You know, bam, beer belly kind of. Or, you know, if you wanted to do like, let me think of a weird shape that you can do, because it's really hard to think of them because of how many cartoons have used this mode and stuff. All right, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Thank you for liking my advice and stuff. But I really appreciate you coming to the stream. But yeah, so here, let me show you an actual example. Like an actual genuine drawing, so that way you guys can actually see it better. So maybe a cartoon like this. I'll make the legs even tinier, because usually that's a trope with like big strong people in cartoons, that they have like really tiny legs because they kind of skip out on leg day. And then it's kind of depending on how you want them to look. If you want them to look muscular, you have to kind of add a little bit of a muscular kind of thing going on with this, you know, kind of like that. Something like that. And then kind of like this. Except for the most part, this is like kind of like Johnny Bravo. So for the most part, you don't really need to add the muscles. And then maybe then add a head. You know, this is like a short, very brawny guy. And then if you wanted to do something like, give me a sec, I'm gonna get rid of, no, I like that one. All these are really good, by the way. I'm glad that I did these. You can also use that bag, like especially if you're doing different drawings with different, don't know how to put it, different poses. This is something that's very important that people forget. You'll have to give me a second. I'm gonna have to shut my door in a minute. When you do big shapes kind of like that and you extenuate them, then you can also remember the flower bag, the flower bag method that we were doing, or the flower sack, whatever it was called. You can use that again for like making something that has a big body like that. Hold on. All right, awesome. But yeah, do you guys have anything else that you want me to touch up on, help you out with? Excuse me. You don't have to feel bad to ask if that's what's going on. I mean, I'm already doing some, so might as well get more done, If there's anything else that you're confused about. How are you at drawing animals? I don't draw animals as much as I should. Because they all have their own sort of way that they're all shaped and things. Like for cats and stuff, cats are more like. I mean, I used to be really big into anthropomorphic animals, kind of. Except I wasn't a big furry. I just kind of drawed them that way because I didn't know how to draw animals properly. But each animal has their own way that they are shaped and stuff. A good way to get some reference for that is to look up like animal skulls and stuff. I know that sounds very morbid and stuff, but especially with like depending on which kind of animal you want to draw, it helps you out to look up that kind of stuff and be able to realize, what their face looks like, and bodies for animals are very tough too, because, and the thing is, I'm really good at drawing humans. I'm not good at drawing animals, but I could do them if I had to. I could learn, but see, I'm making humans. But it's really just, looking at how they're shaped and everything. So like a tiger is kind of like, if I remember correctly, it's kind of got this. No, that's, see, I can't remember how the bones are shaped, which makes me mad. It's okay. Is there anything that you want to touch up on with art? Like, is there anything that you're not really good at that you want to get better at? Because I'm doing some help with that stuff, or giving some advice, a little bit. I wasn't able to give a lot of good advice about drawing animals, though. That's like my one non-strong suit, drawing. Wish it wasn't, but I think that I'm the only one who can fix that, So I need to work on that. Working on drawing animals. This looks terrible. Oops. Give me a sec. Trying to line, and then bam, bam, bam. Kind of like that. And then wham. Kind of. Prism? Is there stuff that you aren't good at with drawing that you want to get better at? That might be able to help? If not, I'm gonna do my own little drawings and, maybe talk while I do them or something. Okay. Whoops, I guess not. Um. Cool. I might end the stream though, real soon. Just cause, I don't know. You guys have reinvigorated my art, brain, and doing these little sketches to help you guys out made me warmed up a lot. So I might be able to work on actual, things I want to do. Maybe. I'm glad. Is there anything that you want me to try to help you with your art? Like, is there any areas that you think that you need help with? Because I could help you out. I'm not the best, but I'm moderately okay at drawing. I can give you tips. That's what my idea is. Instagram is where I post art. At Voice of a 90 Angle on Instagram.com. Or at Voice of a 90 Angle. That's what it is. It's not the .com because it's on my website. Although you could go to voiceofanangle.com. I think I have the website up right now. I haven't restarted it. I'm pretty sure. It's been a minute though, so I might have to go check that, figure it out. Right now I struggle with realism, but I'm used to doing cartoony art and such. I do wonder how you structure faces though from your last stream. So cool. I did a little bit of those, so let me show you. It's a lot of practice, but give me a minute. Was it a sculpture that I did, or did I think it was on drawing. Give me a minute. I'm gonna merge these together. It's a little doodle I did. Let's see. So realism, I actually have a. Is that no? That's a. Wait, is that one blank? Oh wait. No, it's not. Okay. That one was about edges, hard edges. There it is, faces. This is mostly how I do faces, but there's also another way that I do them. Mostly it's the circle tool, the circle method, which is, you draw a circle and you divide it up and, do that. And basically, break it up into parts like that and drop down as much as you can with it and make little lines, try to evenly space it, and then build your nose somewhere on that. And, you know, kind of it's mostly looking at the charts like that people have made, and doing that. But you do that, and then you basically do it in different positions. Like if you did 3/4, you do it like this. What I'm struggling with it is perspective. So if like I had, you know, like a different view, maybe like this, you know, where the eyes were facing that way, kind of like this. But everybody struggles with that, and it's something that even the best like veteran artists have issues with, especially if they haven't worked on that kind of stuff ever with their artwork. But really what it is that it's mostly just remembering where your lines are and how you build your drawing. Because it's mostly just building it the same way that you do your other ones. Kind of like that. You know. But those lines that you make on a circle, kind of like that, those are very, very important when it comes to doing this, because otherwise I would not have known that this was kind of where the scalp was, you know, this was that point where, you know, the hair comes in, kind of like that. I wouldn't have known all that if I hadn't done this and made a circle kind of like that, you know, going downwards in that direction, you know, and then like that. Although the trick is with it is that, especially with that pose right there that I did, is that you want to get as close as you can to your bottom circle with your curve, and you want to try to get it as steep as you can, kind of like that. And it's really difficult to do faces like this, but it's more realistic. And the more realistic that it is, the better it's going to look. I think cartoons, I mean, they're great, but if you take a cartoon and accentuate to the point of basically non-recognition, then you have something almost like a Picasso, you know. Or if you take something and worry about shapes more than you do proportions of facial features, of, you know, everything else, that's more of a Picasso. But remembering where your eyes go, where the nose go, where the nose goes, where the mouth goes, all that stuff, remembering where it goes on the face is like super important, especially in artwork. So yeah, I think unless you have other questions, I might end the stream. I don't know. I like helping out, but I kind of want to do some art of my own. Maybe work off of this that I just did. You know, this is kind of cool. I'm actually probably gonna do something with that. I like it a lot. So copy it, put it on another layer. That's how I do faces. I also do them like this. This is a better way to look at it. Kind of like this. You know, making everything equidistant, making sure that, you know, the mouth is right here, and that the eyes are right here, and that, you know, they have this kind of individual place right there for each one, to connect, you know, kind of halfway in the eye. With this, when you start getting into perspectives, it's very difficult to, you know how to do any of this. But a way to kind of combat that is to get yourself a different color and to sort of build up a plane. So if I was going to draw this, I would draw it maybe like, we'll do a little bit of a rough sketch. Draw it maybe like this. And the further down that we get, the more sloped it's going to get inward because of how the angle is in the drawing. No, that's fine. I don't know if I will. I mean, I'm kind of getting started on this, but at the same time, I kind of like streaming for you guys. But it's mostly remembering that you have to work off of that plane and trying to the best of your ability, trying to maintain your position on that plane and maintain the illusion of the distance that you have going on. So that is kind of the illusion I have going on right here, with this box, you know. And I could think of it as kind of this curve like this, where it's bigger and it's kind of curving inward down, you know, kind of like that. But to me, I think this looks very cool. I don't want to really do anything different with it. The shirt and this part's confusing. I don't really know how I'd do that. But what I might do is that I might just shove the shoulders over a little bit more, like maybe down or out a little, you know, kind of like that. Stuff like this. Making sure that you have this, though, making sure you have an idea of where your plane is, because it's almost like 3D modeling. It's almost like real life. In real life, you have the floor, right? The floor is your plane that you are standing on. If you look at it at different angles, if you look at it in different ways, you know, if you get down on the floor and basically look at the, you know, the wall like this, you're gonna get a plane that looks like, you know, if you have your eyes here, you're gonna get a plane that looks like kind of like this, coming from, well, actually, wait, if the floor is right here and you're kind of a little bit off of it, it's gonna kind of look like that, you know, depending on how you view it. And vanishing points, all that crazy nonsense for perspectives, because, you know, it's a lot of stuff. But when it comes to doing the illustrations with that, it really just matters that you know where your plane is. You can build everything else on top of that plane. You can play around with it until you get what you want, but as long as you have that plane, you should be, you know, you should be good. For the most part. Now for this, I have no idea what I'm doing, but we're just gonna play around with it, you know. And maybe I might stay on. I'm gonna stay on the stream while I play around with it. Give you guys a little bit of a sketch, because I might post this on my my art account. I think I will. But another big part about it is, and I forgot to do this on that side, so we're gonna have to fix it, is remembering your foreshortening and how basically robust your curves are that you're using. So for this, it's, you know, you want to make that curve very deep looking like that, because of the angle that you're coming at it from. And then kind of with the arms are kind of do the foreshortening as well, so make sure you kind of lower those down a little and then make a little bit of that. And show, basically make that as, you know, apparent as you can. Make it as apparent as you can that the size is getting smaller, because showing that size difference is really what perspective is, or has to offer with it. And I think what I might do is that we might put some hands right here. Probably gonna do a hand kind of like this. Something like that. Yeah, like that, kinda. Except we're gonna probably make it more geometric, and when you're sketching, you really don't need to worry about, you know, the logistics of your hands. I think you guys probably already know that, but what you do need to worry about is where everything is and how it's all shaped. And the shirt works, pants work. Looks a little weird, but if we get rid of our red, it looks a little weird, but at the same time it looks different. It looks kind of, you know, cool. And if we wanted to extenuate it as much as we could, I keep saying extenuate. If we wanted to extenuate it as much as we could actually utilize these lines that we've been using by making, like, him out on a subway, making him sit on a swing, you know, giving those planes an actual depth in the real world. You get what I mean? Something like that. And so, because of the angle he's at, we would do somewhat of a foreshortening with poles. So we'll do turn on that. It'll make it look like he's on a subway or something. A subway is a very good example that most people use for these drawings, or these types of drawings, because of the, how many people are packed in those subways and stuff. We could do a fisheye as well. Fisheye is probably a good idea for this drawing, especially because of how, blown up it looks. It looks like somebody went and, popped out the middle a little. But do that. Maybe add the seat. Make the seat kind of go back a little bit more. Maybe right there, just to show that there's a little bit of depth in this world that we're creating. And maybe draw some legs, kind of. I didn't want to have to draw the legs, but if we have to, we have to. We can't really get away from it. The hands are too small, which I've realized after careful consideration. I'm going to select it on both of these, and we'll just transform it, holding shift, and stretch it a little, because his hands did look weird to begin with. Something like that, because the way I see it is that it's going to get small, but if he is with his hands like this, yeah, perspective stuff's great, especially for practice. We're going to cut the hands out, actually, and then we can work on it. We'll make the hands, we'll adjust them a little, hold shift, make them bigger, like he's got them up here. Actually, wait, get shift going again. Yeah. And so if we wanted to make this more visually, not visually correct, but visually, appealing, what we would do is that we would change our little sketch that we have for his arms. And that's very important, because the arms were kind of a weird spot to begin with when we were drawing this. At least I thought it was. And merge these two together. We can take off some of that stuff that we cut off there. And get just our hands. 'Cause the hands are the part we're trying to keep. But what we can do is that we can actually work on developing our foreshortening here. And the way we do that is it'd be bigger up here, and then it gets smaller, kind of like that. Which kind of looks weird, but we would also have to make it bigger down there, if that makes any sense. It would have to be something like this, kinda. And that's a foreshortening trick that I learned, is just kind of doing these circles and imagining it's all circles, because then you can actually visualize it in a better way, and actually draw your lines after the fact. And it helps to kind of develop that a little bit better too, when you have those foreshortening lines there. And this looks, I don't know why, but it just looks better. And I think the reason why is because of the trick that we did with our foreshortening, making something else come into the frame of the hands, making something else come to that size, makes it look really, really good. Makes it look a lot more deep than it actually is. Not deep, but you get what I mean. More of like a perspective, which is what we're going for. But now we can start adding more to our, thing that we have going on right here. So if we're going with sort of a fisheye, what we would need to do is kind of add a curve, which is probably what's going on here. So there's a curve, we have to kind of build a frame. Yeah, I am. Going up. Oh, yeah. I can show you perspective going up. This one's going down, basically camera going down, like pointing like that. but definitely give me a minute. I'm gonna make sure I have a little bit of a base to work off of in a minute, because this is very good. I like this a lot. Really like how this is looking. So yeah, might actually need to stretch it or something afterwards. We'll get it figured out. Let's rename him Perspective Boy. Perspective Boy. Yeah. Alright, we'll get rid of him. Alright, my computer is dying, I can tell, because of how many layers I have. But perspective going down, it would almost be the same thing as the up, except it's like a box, right? Let's take a box. Pretend like you have a box in your kitchen or something, or you're, wherever you're at. We're not in a kitchen. I don't know why I said kitchen. But let's take that box and imagine that you're in the floor looking up at it kind of like this. It would look more like this to you. It would look kind of like that. And the reason I used a box as an example is because of the planes that a box has, and how you can use those planes to build off of it and make something else. So this is more of a 2-point perspective, which would be, if I had bam, bam, kind of like that, something like that. It's when you actually have an edge. I use a Wacom one. But if you're looking up from a 1-point perspective, which is not at this angle, 2 points are not my forte anyways. I'm not good with 2-point. But if you're looking up from a 1-point, it would be like this. Depending on how steep you want it, it would be like that. And you would have one line in the middle. I forgot to mention this in the other one. You'd have one line in the middle that'd be completely straight, no angle on it. And then you'd have one line in the cross section that would be your horizon. Basically, it helps you to create more of a depth of where everything is. And then you can use that same foreshortening technique. Basically, if I was adding a pole, the pole would kind of go like this, and you can see that as the pole got further and further downward, it would, basically get bigger and bigger and bigger, kind of like that. And that's really, you can do that with faces, with people, with all that. It's a lot more difficult because of how the head is shaped. The head being a circle, it makes it a lot easier to take that downward camera approach, kind of looking down on something. Whereas looking up, you have to work off of the feet, and you also have to work off the head being like this, which is almost the complete opposite of what the other one was. You would have to work off the head looking like this. Got your eyes, mouth. And then basically that would be the smallest point in your drawing. Everything else would be big, like that, kind of. And so you can do it that way, and there's a lot of other ways that you can kind of cheat it, especially if you do maybe somebody's hands right here and they're doing like a flip or something. Then you can basically foreshorten a arm over there, kind of like that. But really, that's how you do it. It's basically, you find a point that you want, bam, and you draw 2 lines depending on which way direction you want to draw or perspective you want to use. And that point right there, that's also where your horizon is going to meet horizontally. And that's how they draw buildings and stuff. That's how they draw streets and things. And each one of your lines like this connect to that. And that creates this kind of perspective for you. And when you create 2-point perspective, that's when you add another point over here, kind of do that. And add a second amount of depth to it. A 1-point would really just be this block, and then, you're looking to the side of it, and then it's also going inward like that. Kind of like this. Yeah. Does that help? I hope so. I'm trying to figure out how to answer you guys' questions, help you out. I use a Wacom One though. They are one of Wacom's new like entry level one of their more entry level display tablets. And I use it mostly because I got used to drawing on an iPad, and I needed to get back on having a display to draw with. I like Clip Studio a lot. That's one of my favorite programs to use. Although Medibang is just as good and Krita is just as good. I like Clip Studio. Only reason why is because of personal preference. Me using it for such a long time. If I had to try to learn another software, I mean, it wouldn't be a pain. It would just be a whole curve I'd have to learn. You can change your color modes. I forgot about that. Density of the color mode. Could do light and change how dense the light is. But I don't really like light mode. I like dark mode. I don't know anybody who uses light mode. Ibis Paint or IBS Paint or whatever it is. I have. It's a good software. I think it's really good. To me it's a good software to use, especially because it's free. It helps you out when it comes to that stuff. Give me a second. There we go. I'm glad. I'm really glad. Because I've been through it. I've had to learn it all on my own with nobody else to help me out. So I get how freaking tough it is. It's terrible to try to figure all this out on your own. I used to stress all the time about being able to figure out how to do this right, how to do art right. And that's not really something you'd think I'd be saying, because I'm not too terrible at art. I know a lot of stuff about it. But I used to struggle all the time to everything about art. Because I was a beginner. I didn't have practice. I didn't, try to learn as much as I could about it. And I think that really the fallacy of people wanting to be good at art is that some people don't want to put in effort to become good at art. And it's not that they don't want to put in effort, but it's that they might not have time to put in effort, or they don't put it as a priority. But if you want to get good at it, you have to put it as something important in your life and make it something that you want to do and that you make yourself do. I got back from work today exhausted, but I was like, I have to stream. I have to do some art. I have to, at least show people I'm alive and, try to help out them however I can. And show them my art, because I like showing people my art, especially you guys. You guys are cool. But it's the drive to get better and to learn. And if me giving advice helps you out and motivates you and gets you more of an idea of how you can work better with this, then I'm gonna give as much advice as I can, because I like helping people out, and I like being able to make sure that other people figure out how to do the things that I already know. I like helping. This looks pretty good to me. Okay. Alright, well, I think I'm going to end the stream now, guys. I'm sorry about that. But, I have to get some more of my art done on my own. Isn't that sort of the point of art? The idea is that you're constantly learning new ways. Yeah, exactly. The Satisfaction is relative. Really, you have satisfaction in your best effort done. Yeah, that's really how it is. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I have to go. I'll be back. Do a stream. I'll probably do a stream later. I don't know. Maybe like someday. I don't know. Soon. I don't know. Yeah. I'll.